Yeah. Roberta in the truth zone, mic hitting raw. Spotlight shining, she exposing the flaw. Debunking the myth, breaking their facade. This is Glass City, respect the squad. On these NYC blocks where the skyline flex big. Roberta Glass slicing lies with a truth rig. Innocence frosters, your stories unravel. She's a map through the madness of gritty gravel. Glass don't bend and facts don't break. She's a storm that's called, you feel the quake. Exposing tales, stitch with crooked seams. Justice in the lens, shattered fake dreams. Screams about killers, painted heroes in disguise. She burning propaganda with fire in her eyes. No glamour for the guilty, she call it straight. She backs victims, the voice stay away. Stats and receipts, no spin, no clutter. Cold cases whisper, she cuts through the mutter. Truth's her tempo, don't confuse the beat. She's standing for the real while you taking a seat. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time to play. She's glass hard, break the false and save the day. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time to...
Okay. How is everyone? Wow, what a day. So Bryan Kohberger pled guilty today to killing Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin in open court. I mean, of course, there's some of his diehard supporters who still pro-burgers. They still won't accept it. So, of course, on X, I made this tweet. I mean, there's an article by Innocence Fraudster in the New York Post. He pushed another innocence fraud, which is too depressing to talk about today. But he wrote an article entitled "Deluded Bryan Kohberger Fans Insist He's Innocent Despite Guilty Plea." They say it reeks of a cover-up. And in the article, I'm going to quote it, says, quote, "Some fans blame lazy, crooked cops. Other claim he's scapegoated in a wide-ranging conspiracy." And I wrote, where have I heard that before? The grift goes on. And Kaylee Goncalves' father was very upset by this, by Bryan Kohberger pleading guilty. He said he wanted a trial. I can show you some of that interview. Hold on one second. And my feeling is that he doesn't know how good he has it. Because today, on the same day, Diddy was acquitted of the strongest racketeering. They had dropped the kidnapping charges. Wasn't aware of that right before they sent the jury to deliberate. But racketeering and conspiracy, as well as sex trafficking. These are all the charges that I'm very familiar with because that Keith Raniere was convicted of. So the Nexium guru, I followed that case from inside the courtroom, went to all the early hearings and much of Keith Raniere's trial, as well as all the sentencings for all the people involved. It was 6 defendants in that case. Most of them pled out. But Keith Raniere wanted a trial. He has the same lawyer, P. Diddy, as Keith Raniere, Mark Agnefello. I was not impressed by him. I thought for sure, given that New York City federal prosecutors have a crazy rate of conviction, that he would be convicted. But I obviously did not follow my own rule, which is all the pretrial publicity. I didn't realize he had so much support. And you can see that the fans were celebrating. Hold on, let me show you this. with baby oil. I mean, just so, I mean, I thought for sure, right? So they're celebrating with baby oil outside the courthouse. I thought for sure, since I think it's 90% plus prosecutors. I mean, he beat the odds in this case, and I didn't think Mark Agnofello was making all the same arguments he made in the Keith Raniere case. This may be distasteful, but it's not sex trafficking. I mean, you have him on camera pulling Casey back into a freak off, his victim. I don't know, and beating her. I don't know what more they wanted, this jury, but this goes to how our juries have been poisoned by this wrongful conviction movement. Just to quote, Martin Pribe wrote an excellent, if you're not following his blog on Substack, you're missing out. It's called Crooked City. It's the only blog it's only Substack right now that I'm paying for. Chicago, but you can also just sign up for free. He writes Chicago, and so he's talking about Chicago, which is the center of innocence fraud, is a city where but I think it applies to now most of the country. Chicago is a city where the jury pool was long ago poisoned through an alliance of the most radical defense attorneys in the country and the media. The collusion is not merely the story of a city's collapse. It is the story of a nation on the brink. For the ascendance of the exoneration industry, I call it innocence fraud. He calls it the exoneration industry. I think that's another good name for it. Is the story of the justice system transformed into lawfare. So I think it's going to be harder and harder as jurors who are seeped in this media, in this ideology, that there's so many wrongful convictions. I told you about my jury experience. The first vote was 11 guilty to 1 not guilty. We eventually flipped the final juror. This was in a child predation abuse case. And right before we're handing in the verdicts, or about to sign off on the verdict slip, one younger guy goes, well, there's a lot of wrongful convictions, but I don't think this is one of them. And I said, like what? I said, you don't think that, you don't think that every jury was this sure who convicted someone? You think that there's a lot of iffy juries that convicted people that weren't sure and just threw aside reasonable doubt? Don't you think every jury looked at this case carefully? I mean, or the majority? I mean, this has been a ideology kind of put out, that there's just so many wrongful convictions. Our justice system is so corrupt. And I think the idea of reasonable doubt we saw in the Karen Reed case now means you have to be 100% certain. You can't have a reasonable doubt. Of course, a reasonable doubt is I wasn't there. I couldn't know, right? That's another talking point. Well, you weren't there. Now, are we only allowed to have opinions on things that we were there for, that we experienced with our own eyes and ears? We can no longer look at the evidence and logically infer things. I found this troubling. So he put Mark Agnofello, back to Diddy, put the same argument that this was really it was distasteful, but it's not criminal. This is exactly what he said in Keith Raniere's book here. It's throw off the wig time in New York City. It's a really hot day here. So that was that. Let me see. Back to the Goncalves. So when I say Mr. Goncalves is so lucky that Bryan Kohberger pled out, because true crime YouTube was majority of it, including law tubers, were gearing up to defend Bryan Kohberger and say it was an iffy case and forget the DNA on the knife sheath. I mean, I still have people in the comment section saying, oh no, there was no DNA of John O'Keefe found on the taillight pieces. Yeah, there was. I mean, they forget how much evidence there was against Karen Reed. Okay. So hold on one sec. So here's his interview with News Nation.
Gut says probably not, considering.
Wait, hold on.
But all I will say is there was no majority for this decision at all.
Well, Madison Mogen's family and Ethan Chapin's family have come out and say that they're very happy about the deal. So maybe the family, I don't know about Xana Kernodle's family, how that went. They've stayed silent. So I'm not sure this is true. I don't know. It could have been an equal breakdown of half and half, and the prosecutor could have had to do what he thought was best. We'll look at Bryan Kohberger's plea out in a second, but here's his interview, some of his interview with News Nation.
And if they're not working for us, they're working against us, guys. I mean, we have to wake up to this. I mean, we have to hold people accountable. Coeur d'Alene just had a shooting where we attacked our firemen. People need to stand up to these monsters and stop freaking bowing down to them and giving them childcare. I mean, prison is.
I mean, I don't think he even thought that there was a chance that Bryan Kohberger could walk. And believe me, he could have walked. I mean, you'll see that if you watch the sentencing, sorry, it wasn't the sentencing, the hearing today where Bryan Kohberger pled guilty, the prosecutor saying, well, we have his car going around the murder site this many times, 30-something times, but it's in the cell phone tower area, so there's a lot of people in that area. I mean, the defense, the main issue here, and this will tell you how important judges are in cases, was could Bryan Kohberger defend himself with a third-party culprit? They had 4 alternative suspects that they wanted to talk to a jury about and shed doubt on, even though Bryan Kohberger's DNA was found on the knife sheath left at the murder scene. And his car was seen speeding away. Almost got into an accident, we found out today. It was at such high rates of speed. So I don't think he knows how lucky he was. But I don't think he's considering that he could have walked. Well, what's he going to do then? Is he going to shoot Bryan Kohberger if he walks and makes book money and movie money? I mean, there was a whole Reddit devoted to him. He has his fans and supporters, some of them who claim to be lawyers on YouTube.
Nothing but adult childcare. You get free vision, you get free dental, you get free meals, you get AC, room and board, cable TV, internet access. It's ridiculous what we give.
So he's saying it's ridiculous what we give prisoners. That's another conversation for another day, but he's assuming that he's going to get a guilty verdict and get a jury to vote on the death penalty. Yes, it's a death penalty case, but we saw with Jodi Arias, another horrible crime. They couldn't agree on that, and to get on that jury, you had to say that you agreed with the death penalty. The death penalty, that movement to end the death penalty is so strong. Has so much money. So
give our prisoners better than what we treat our vets. Our vets coming back from war with missing limbs. This is unacceptable.
Shannon Gray, I'm going to ask you to step in as well. Judge Hippler, Steve just mentioned Judge Hippler in this case. I have to ask you as a matter of law, would Judge Hippler have been fully integrated into this deal plan? Meaning, this is not a surprise to Judge Hippler.
He doesn't know how good he has it. I think the plea deal was the best outcome that any victim's family could have hoped for. He has given up his right to appeal. I'm confusing my boyfriend. He doesn't understand my point. I don't think you're going to get a jury in this day and age if you can't get a jury to convict. And I know Idaho is different than New York City. New York City is very leftist, criminal friendly. He's also a celebrity, so there's that. I can't really compare the two. But let's compare Karen Reed, also in very, very, blue Massachusetts. Still, there's much more evidence against Karen Reed than there is against Bryan Kohberger. I mean, the really strong piece of evidence is the DNA on the knife sheath. But wait till the defense attorney gets into court and sheds doubt. How was this handled? How was this processed? Is this reliable? Tunnel vision investigation, sloppy investigation. Was this somehow corrupted? I don't know how you're going to say it's corrupted, but they get imaginative. But this judge, in this case, in the Idaho 4 case, said, no, you cannot argue third-party culprit. In the Karen Reed case, she said you can develop it. And the defense attorneys took that little narrow space. That makes a huge difference, the judge you had. In Karen Reed case, the judge was like another wing of the defense team. So I understand he's angry, but I don't think he's taking in what's going on in this country now with juries all over the country. They've confused reasonable doubt with having any doubt. Any doubt at all is reasonable doubt. It has to be reasonable doubt.
In the defense, there's small modifications sometimes that they can make to the sentencing regarding, restitution, some other things like that. But if the state presents sufficient facts to the judge or a plea of guilty to the counts, normally judges will accept that, and they'll let the defense know if they're not going to accept that ahead of time. So I would suspect that the plea will go through on Wednesday, and then they'll set over sentencing for a few weeks, and so the victims can be present to read victims' impact statements, etc. So
Steve, I covered a case.
He was just really pissed. You could see him today he wouldn't even go into the hearing. Let's take a listen. Am I sharing this? I hope I am.
I mean, it was good enough for mine.
Do you have any message for Kohberger's family?
Yeah, what do you want Kohberger to do? We know when you flew out here. We know.
So he's saying that he was left out, that the Kohberger family flew out earlier, knew before the parents. But that may be true, because Bryan Kohberger probably told his parents that he was planning on taking this plea deal before they agreed to it with the state.
We have your flight records.
How are you preparing to see him today?
I'm not going to see him.
When you say you know the flight records, what do you mean, Steve?
I know when his parents booked their flight. When his father did.
What does that mean?
You'll find out.
Would you like to say something to them?
No, I don't care about it.
The rest of your family went inside. Is it important for them to be in there today?
Yeah, for sure.
Where are you going? Are you not able to get it? You're not staying in?
No, I'm not going in.
Steve,
So he had complaints about the prosecutor. He complained about the investigation, is my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that he's been putting his anger into a lot of, as you would. I mean, who would want a horrible thing to live through? But I don't know what he thought. A trial, you have to also get ready for the prospects that your child will be diminished, victim blamed, thrown through the mud. Is everybody with me? Hey, Debbie. Hey, Jack G. Hey, Mr. C. Hey, Doris. Hey, Texas Brat. Your latex spouse. Hello, everyone. Okay, everybody with me? Emily? Marcia? Okay. Here we go. So going into, how do you go on, right? When your daughter's butchered, it's unfathomable. I get it. But I think that without the trial to focus on, all you have is your grief. But he does have his victim impact statement. When we have all those victim impact statements will be read at sentencing. I remember going to when the NXIVM people all pled out, and you go to these hearing after hearing after hearing, and then they plead out, and it's like this. I mean, it's very much, it's an unemotional scene. They plead out, and in my case, they all left. I mean, they weren't incarcerated. At least he went back to jail where he's staying. So here's the plea hearing, if you missed it.
Has anyone promised you that I would be lenient or easy on you if you pled guilty?
No.
Has anyone threatened you or anyone close to you to get you to plead guilty?
No.
Has anyone, other than the state's agreements with respect to the plea agreement, has anyone promised you anything in exchange for your plea agreement?
No.
Has anyone told you to be untruthful in answering my questions today?
No.
Has anyone offered you a reward of any kind other than the plea agreement in order to get you to plead guilty today?
No.
Are you pleading?
So if you didn't notice, I've sped up the speed just to get through it because there's a lot of
guilty
questions.
Because you are guilty.
Yes.
And the Kohberger fans, the murderer's fans, are still wondering if he was coerced, even though he says he wasn't coerced by anyone to plead guilty in this. They still think he might be hiding something, and that they strong-armed him into this plea deal. It's wild. But I just remember being I wanted a trial with all the NXIVM defendants, with Allison Mack, because also, some of the truth gets buried. Some of the truth comes out in testimony. You learn things that you didn't know. I hope the prosecutors have shared everything they have and what would be the testimony of the people who were planning on testifying with the victim's family. I just think that I get it. I get that it's disappointing, but you're also taking a real big gamble with the jury in this day and age.
And counsel, obviously there have been a number of motions filed to suppress evidence in this case. Other than those filed, are there any other motions that you felt were available with respect to Rule 12?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Kohberger, you understand that by entering the guilty plea in this case, you would be giving up your right to appeal any decision this court made, as well as your sentence?
Yes.
Have you had enough time to decide whether or not to plead guilty?
Yes.
Are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Given your choices, do you believe it's in your best interest to plead guilty?
Yes.
Have you discussed fully the matter of pleading guilty with your attorney, and are you satisfied with the advice you've received?
Yes.
Has your attorney advised you to your satisfaction about what your rights are, what your defenses may be, and what the possible consequences to you of your guilty plea are?
Yes.
Has your attorney done everything you've asked them to do?
Yes.
Are you satisfied with their representation of you?
Yes.
I have received a written guilty plea advisory questionnaire that is purported to be filled out by you. Did you fill that document out?
Yes.
Did you understand the question?
Thank you. Never forget all the appeals. You have the whole weight of the death penalty. I mentioned this when the news came out that he was going to plead guilty. But you have the whole weight of the anti-death penalty movement and the appeals, multiple appeal after appeal after appeal after appeal. And then only, and many times they get the sentence overturned and it gets to life without possibility of parole, which is then, and you've been dragged emotionally through all these, or with parole, like Purvis Payne. That was ridiculous. Don't get me started on that case again. But death penalty movement is a mighty, mighty movement in this country. It is so rich. I mean, this guy does not, I mean, if only Karen Reed had stood up and said she did it. I mean, save the O'Keefe family. You know, people have to get off work. They have to, the stress of these trials. You have to live. I mean, they're reliving the trauma every day, but it's traumatic. Talking about it in open court, being judged by everyone, especially when it's broadcasted. Now, this was not smartly not going to be a broadcasted trial. I thought that was a good decision.
That you answered in this document?
Yes.
And are the answers that are outlined in this document your answers?
Yes.
Are those answers truthful?
Yes.
Did you sign the document?
Yes.
And this document outlines many of the rights that you have in this case should you not plead guilty. Did you understand those rights?
Yes.
They include a right to a jury trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
They include a right to the presumption of innocence. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You have the right to require the state to prove your guilt as to each element beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand that?
Yes.
They include a right to confront your accusers and cross-examine witnesses presented by the state, including by utilizing the subpoena power of the court to accomplish that. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You understand you would have a privilege against self-incrimination and a right to remain silent, meaning you would not be compelled to testify if you did not wish to, had you not pled guilty.
Yes.
The benefit for him is that he doesn't have to, he has still some semblance of a control, being a psychopath. Now, he looked up, can psychopaths be pro-social? He knew something was wrong with himself. He had done those kind of searches. They also had his Amazon search for the knife and the knife sheath. He tried to erase it. They found nothing of evidentiary value in his apartment. He was a student graduate student, University of Washington State. What was it? Help me out here. The town over. But they solved this pretty quickly. They were following him and his father. His father had flown up from Pennsylvania to drive with him. I thought that was certainly my parents wouldn't have done that. Be like, you're on your own with that drive. I just find that odd that you can't make the drive alone. So I think, if you're looking for answers as to why he did this, maybe some of the victims' families are looking for answers as to why he did this. There's never a good reason why. Did he have a crush on Madison Mogen? That's been put out there. Maybe, but there's never a good reason ever to kill anyone unless it's in self-defense or something like that.
You understand you're giving up that privilege and those rights that I've just outlined by pleading guilty?
Yes.
I want you to understand what the state would have had to have proven at trial had you, as to the crimes that you're pleading guilty to, had you, if you didn't plead guilty. Let me find the document. Hang on a second here. All right. So as to count one burglary, the state would have to have proven that on or about November 13, 2022 in Latah County, Idaho, you unlawfully entered a residence located at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder. As to count two, the state would have.
So, your latest spouse, thank you for moderating, says, woohoo, Listening long enough to have a Roberta birthday. Thanks for being a member for 9 months. LOL, thank you for being our voice of reason, Roberta. You're the woman. Thank you. Second Beach Gal says, Roberta, you have taught me so much, and sometimes I don't want to agree. Sometimes I don't want to agree, but thanks so much. You don't want to agree? Does that mean you do agree, but you don't want to, or you don't agree? I don't know. Either way, thank you.
Had to have proven that on or about that same date in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Madison Mogen, a human being, by stabbing Madison Mogen, from which she died. As to count 3, the state would have had to have proven that.
Right. They were mentioning this on, was it Newsmax or was it, I think it was Newsmax. I was watching some of their coverage. They were like the Innocence Fraudster channel of this. And they said, well, given that the Menendez brothers have been given a chance for parole and have so many supporters, I mean, don't you think that this guy could have gained support? They're like, no, not this crime. Well, this is a heinous crime. And killing the Menendez parents, Kitty and Jose Menendez, was not a heinous crime. It was one of the most heinous crimes. And they still have supporters. All he has to say is, I mean, he was starting this kind of defense. Boo-hoo, I'm on the autism spectrum. No, he's not. He's a cold hole. He knows what he is. He's looking it up. But also, interesting point is that the judge had barred the prosecutors from using the word psychopath or sociopath in this trial. I don't know how they're going to... So I don't know if they were going to even present that evidence. And they looked up, can psychopaths be pro-social and other things about psychopaths.
On that same date in Latah County, at that same address, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Kaylee Goncalves, a human being, by stabbing her, from which she died. As to count 4, the state would have had to have proven that on or about that same date in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being, by stabbing her, from which she died. And then as to count 5, also murder in the first degree, that on or about November 13th, 22, in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being, by stabbing him, from which he died. Do you understand those things the state would have had to have proven? Yes. Do you understand that by pleading guilty, the state no longer has to prove those things because you're admitting those things are true? Yes. I want to also make, for the record, the defendant has provided with the guilty plea advisory form a document entitled Written Factual Basis that purports to have the defendant's signature dated 1 July 2025. Did you sign that document? Yes. And did you agree with the written factual basis that is included there? Yes. And then let me ask you, did you, on November 13th, 2022, enter the residence at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder? Yes. Did you, on November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, kill and murder Madison Mogen, a human being? Yes. And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought? Yes. Did you, on or about that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Kaylee Goncalves, a human being? Yes. And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought? Yes. And did you, on that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being? Yes. And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought? Yes. And then on or about November 13th, 2022, again in Latah County, Idaho, did you kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being? Yes. Did you do?
So, I mean, just very robotic. Apparently his parents were very upset. They've asked for privacy. But it'd be very interesting to know what they knew about their son and their brother before this.
You do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought? Yes. I would ask the state at this time to provide its recitation of its factual basis had this case gone to trial.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the organization of the resuscitation is different than what I think the court and the public may be familiar with from the probable cause affidavit and other documents. The state's evidence, as an overview, would show that back in March of 2022, when the defendant was residing at his parents' residence or was residing back in Pennsylvania, his home state, he purchased online a K-bar knife and sheath with an Amazon gift card that he had purchased shortly prior to the purchase of the knife, sheath, and sharpener. Jumping ahead, the end of June.
I mean, I can't blame the parents for wanting a trial. Did anybody know who bought him that gift card? I'm so curious. Was that his parents? Was that someone else? You're saying no sound. Can you hear me now? I hope you can hear me. I'll wait for you guys to catch up.
That year, the defendant, Mr. Kohberger, moved from Pennsylvania to Pullman, Washington, which is right across the state line from Moscow, Idaho, for the purpose of pursuing a PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University. The state's evidence would indicate that beginning July 9th of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone began connecting to a cell tower that serves the area of the 1122 King Road residence in Moscow, Idaho. Now, I will acknowledge for the court and all present that there are many residences in that area. It is a dense population of mostly college-related occupants. Between July...
I mean, it would make sense if the prosecution, after watching other high-profile trials, maybe like Karen Reed, were more nervous, more willing to do a plea deal. Things were going their way, though. They had a better judge, certainly in this case, than we had in Karen Reed. And the defense was eager to make a deal after they lost the ability to argue third-party culprit. So who are they going to blame it on? If they can't blame it on anyone else, what can they go to next? Bowdoin defense. Sloppy investigation. You can't trust the DNA. It might have worked. They might have bamboozled the jury. You don't know. With the help maybe this jury would have been doing what I believe some of the Karen Reed jury was doing, looking online, following free Bryan Kohberger sites, considering testimony in another trial or whatever. There's no other trial in this case, but considering the pro-Berger talking points. I mean, he can appeal it. I mean, he may try later on. Sometimes they get remorse, but it's very hard. I mean, look at all the language in this. They make sure 50 different ways that he understands that he's pleading guilty. He wasn't coerced. He understands the charges. He really did it. He's pleading guilty because he is guilty. You haven't had any, they ask him about alcohol. You're not under the effects of alcohol or drugs they basically try to eliminate any possibility that you can get out of this plea deal. Make it as ironclad as you can.
July 9th of 2022 and November 7th, the defendant's phone connected to that particular tower during late night, early morning hours, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. on approximately 23 times. Now, I will acknowledge also, we do not have evidence that the defendant had direct contact with 1122 or with residents of 1122, but we can put his phone in that area on those times. In the interim, on August 22nd of 2022, Lake Bell County Sheriff's Deputy Darren Duke conducted a traffic stop in the early morning hour or late evening hours, about 11 p.m. On the west side of Moscow, on Moscow Pullman Road. This was a traffic stop of Mr. Kohberger's car, which turned out to be a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plates. During the course of the traffic stop, Deputy Duke was able to obtain Mr. Kohberger's name, Bryan Kohberger, his phone number, and his address, which at that point was an apartment address in Pullman. We then moved to the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. The state's evidence would show that early morning hours on that day, Mr. Kohberger's phone left his Pullman residence, which is an apartment in kind of the central northwest part of Pullman, That phone was then subsequently turned off at approximately 2.
This is something that Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito did before the murder of Meredith Kircher. They turned off their cell phones at the same time and turned them back on at a later time after the murder in unison, something that was not a habit to them. It's curious, also
2:54 a.m.
Curious why we didn't see any of whether it was why the judge forbade looking at Karen Reed's parents' phone records and seeing if it was normal for her to call at 1:36 or whatever she called in the morning.
And remained off until approximately 4:48 a.m. on Sunday, the 13th of November. On Sunday, the state's evidence includes
this is the original audio. It gets echoey here. I'm not sure why, but every channel had this echo go through this part of the video.
Included trial video surveillance of a business on the Moscow-Poland highway, just across the state line from Moscow. It would show a vehicle matching the description of the defendant's Hyundai Elantra entering Moscow at approximately 3:02 a.m. Compiled surveillance that the investigators put.
So you get the feeling, there's a lot of phones. Here's Mr. Gonzalez again saying that he would prefer this to be judged by a jury of his peers. I think this is not in touch with the current reality of jurors and juries right now, and this, especially younger juries.
Absolutely zero, none. Could be no farther than how we believe. I want my community support. I want that jury to make the decision, not Thompson, not some old man who's 70 freaking years old deciding how my daughter's life weighs in a courtroom.
Is this it though? Is it really Bryan Kohberger's decision that he wants to eliminate? And this is a real issue of control here. Bryan Kohberger has some element of control. He decides. He gets the death penalty off the table. He decides when and where he's going to plead guilty. Is it just that control to have Bryan Kohberger be at the mercy of the court, be at the mercy? So he thinks it's the prosecutor, but really it's both sides, the prosecutor and the defense, making this decision together. But I think what Gonzalez is picking up on is this element of control.
That is not justice. That is not justice at all. I'll take my juries, I'll take my peers all day long. I'm sick of one man deciding or one woman deciding what a life's worth. So that's how I stand on that.
I fully understand how you feel. And none of us can understand what you're going through. None of us is walking in your shoes. And I'm just glad to give you this platform to be.
Oh, and then he goes on and praises Newsmax, News Nation, or whatever, News Nation. Like the innocence fraudster. The most. I mean, how many things did they do pro Karen Reed? They may be good on this case, but they may be pro victim on this case, but boy, are they not on other cases. He praises them. So I don't think he's really, I understand it, but I can't criticize it. But that's basically, do you guys want to see any more of that's the sentencing hearing. That's the essence of the sentencing hearing and what I have to say about it. I think it's a fantastic outcome. I think that the best we could have hoped for is the death penalty, but then you go through that, and is the country going to get rid of the death penalty eventually? Maybe. No, I know it's still popular in America, but to actually get to the point where best case scenario, Bryan Kohberger gets convicted and he gets the death penalty. But then you have years and years of appeals. You don't know if there's going to be a ban on it, or, it's going to be thrown off, or Idaho is going to get rid of it. or the country's going to get rid of it. I don't know. I mean, it would be 20, 30 years before he saw, and he would be living in better conditions on death row than in general population. At least he's got to go to general population. So that's what I have to say. I think this is a really some happy news. Disappointing verdict in Diddy trial. I was hoping that he would get at least one of the major convictions. There was, of course, the jury was complaining that juror 25 on the jury wasn't following the judge's instructions. So I don't know if that was a holdout for conspiracy charges or racketeering charges. I don't know if he was following. I don't know. You know, you're not privy to what was going on in the jury room. Certainly seems like he may have been the one holdout looking to hang the jury on that one count. All right. That's what I have for today. Just a quickie for today. Please hit the thumbs up. Share this episode. Support the channel. Links are all in the description of this episode. I will be back very shortly with more true crime reporting. Have a great night, everybody.
Mic check, Roberta strides through the static haze. True crime Gotham where the shadows play their plays. Fraudsters fold when a spotlight beams. Fact-focused queen busting propaganda schemes. Glass shatter lies echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Post, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing, she's the anti-fraud light. Hard cash warrior, dissecting state and defense. Twisted innocence claims breaking pretense. Gotham's truth seeker cuts clean with the blade. Facts in the forefront, no justice gets swayed. Cold facts drip heavy, real talk unfurls. Cracking cases open like oysters with pearls. Innocence gimmicks crumble to dust in the wind. For victims, her creed, justice till the end. Headphones blazing, she drops heavy artillery. Narratives twisted, meet blunt object civility. Roberta got receipts that unravel the ploy. Exposing the lies these fraudsters deploy. Glass shatters lies, echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Post, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing, she's the anti-fraud light.